Good morning. This is VirtualPBX-admin training. Just making sure everything is broadcasting properly. And then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, there we go. I got confirmation that we are good to go. So our training here will be about an hour and a half. We'll be going through all of the Dash features to some degree or another. You can always get to our Dash login page that you see here by in your browser typing in dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com website just by clicking on the login link towards the top of the page. It's in a blue bar. Now, to get logged in, we need your email address, right? That typically you use to sign up with this, or your admin used to create your user. Your password, which was hopefully emailed to you, and then the account name, right? The company name, typically. Could be your own name if you just signed up for your own personal use. Now, if for some reason you don't have your information or forgot it, just above the sign-in bar, there's a forgot your info link. You can click on that. We still need your email address. Then we need either the account name or the phone number, right? So one of these two. You don't need both. Then you click on reset password. The system's going to send you an email with a link. When you click on that link, it gets you logged in, but basically so you can change your password, then logs you back out so you can get back to here. So you can type in that new password, but then you can also click on the box in front of Remember Me. Now, I do recommend bookmarking this page just to make it easier to get here in the future. And then once you get logged in, it'll take you to one or two spots. Now, if you've logged in several times, it's going to take you right to your dashboard page, which is what you'll be seeing here, because on this account, I've logged in several times. This is a test account that's been around for a while. But for you, if it's your first time logging in, it's going to take you to your user account page, which I can get to by clicking on my name up here at the top right. And on this page, for instance, I could change my own password. Right, I can change anyone else's password on the Users tab under the dashboard page, but if I want to change my own password, I have to click on my name and get here. Now, you also have an account level settings. So like you can change your company's time zone, for example. Right here. All right, I can do a search for time zone and click Save Changes. Now, this is a test account, so it doesn't have everything you have, right? For your accounts, under where it says user here on the left, you're going to have another section here for billing information. That's where you would update things like your credit card information. You could see what plan you're on. You could see previous invoices. You can see who your billing contact is, right? The person who's getting your invoices. All right, so when you're done here, then you click close over to the top right, and that will take you to the dashboard page. Now, up here at the top, right? So I clicked on my name. That's how I got to that user page. Right. For many of you, to the right of your name, you'll have a D&D toggle for Do Not Disturb. Right? If you click on it, it's going to flip it and make it look white or mostly white. That means it's active, right? And that just means your calls aren't going to be offered to your devices, right? Calls will either skip you or go to voicemail. Right? Then we got the little help icon, question mark. Chat with us opens up a chat window so you can speak to a support rep and they can walk you through setting up a particular feature. Learn more opens up a new tab and takes you to our support pages so you can look at the individual guides, right, with screenshots. Some of them have videos. Online store opens a new tab, takes you to store.virtualpbx.com, where you can order things like a web phone, a router, etc. And then the web phone, this one only shows up after you've added a web phone to your user, and basically after the next time you log in. This opens up a new tab. It goes to webphone.virtualpbx.net. This allows you to use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls from your computer and that browser. Right? It only works with the computer or desktop versions of the browsers, not the mobile versions. If I don't have a web phone assigned, then you would just have a blank spot. Right, here we got the menu icon or hamburger icon, right? 3 horizontal lines. This takes you to other dash features. Right? We're primarily going to be in the dashboard today for the most of the training, but we will touch on these others. Now, some of them I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but I'll refer you to other resources that we have. Some of them, like the dynamic caller ID here, this is a plan-specific feature, meaning it's available on some plans but not others. So you might have to upgrade your plan. And I'll try to point all those out as we go through. And then the logout icon. Then here in the center here, we got our total users, right? 19 people who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on a per user basis. So the more users you have, the higher your bill. Your total devices, I have 32 devices on this account, and then a breakdown. Now, Dash was designed with VoIP phones in mind. That's something I just want to point out here right off the top. Now here, soft phone, this just means the software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So a soft phone is a VoIP phone. And I have, 14 listed here. So on this breakdown, the soft phone bucket, that includes the VirtualPBX soft phone app or any third-party soft phone apps you might be using, right? We don't separate that out. Then we've got the cell phone, right? Pretty much most of us know what a cell phone is. Then we have the web phone, right? Chrome, Firefox. And then we have a SIP phone. SIP is a subtype of VoIP phone. This is a hardware device, right? So it sits on your desk, right? You can touch it. But so if you go out shopping for phones, you want to make sure it's SIP compliant or SIP compatible, that sort of thing. All right, down here, I have unregistered devices. 3, that means my 3 SIP phones that are on my account are currently unregistered. And that just means that it could just mean they're just not plugged in, right? It could be something more. It could be, something like a router setting, or maybe there's an internet issue at that location. Then next up, I have total numbers. These are my phone numbers on my account. I have 26. Most of our plans include anywhere between, I believe it's 2 and 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. So once you go over that, you're going to have an overage per number per month. So I'm obviously paying an overage. If you just signed up with us, like in this last week, then if you want to know what that is, that's $1.99 per phone number over your allotment. Older plans, I don't know. You'd have to talk with our account services team. All right, then we have a couple breakdowns. The first one is assigned numbers and spare numbers. The assigned number means you're using it, right? So it's one of those main numbers you see over to the right, or that conference room number or that fax box number. Could be a number I have directly going to a user or to a group or to a queue, right? It's just a number I'm currently using, right? Someone can dial it and get a hold of someone, leave a voicemail, etc. Right? Spare numbers, it's on my account, so it counts towards my allotment. I'm just not currently using it, right? Could be simply because I had a promotion that was running and it just ended, right? So in the United States, we just had Memorial Day holiday on Monday, and I can say, okay, that promotion just ended. I don't want to get any more calls about it. Let me move that number into spare, right? So now people calling about a promotion that's no longer active, they'd call that number, they'd get a busy tone. Then we have the breakdown US DID and US toll-free. US toll-free is US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down to 833 currently as a prefix. US DID, that just means a US local number, right? So if you want a phone number in San Jose, California, right, it would show up as a US DID versus a number, say, in Miami, Florida. You can have international phone numbers on your account if you wish. If you're interested in adding those, you're going to want to contact our porting team, and that's porting at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you want a phone number in. If there's additional requirements, they will let you know what those requirements are. And then after that, they'll be able to get you the number, right? Obviously, if we can't get the number, they'll tell you right off the bat. Conference bridges, 3, that means I've enabled the ability to host or moderate a conference on 3 of my users. I'm not able to do that until after I have a conference bridge number. All right, up here at the top, we have our main numbers, right? So these 4 phone numbers, they all behave in the same way. They all go into the same location. They're all going to have the same main greeting. Right? The conference room number, it's my main conference number. Everyone dials this number, whether they're my staff members, clients, vendors, they dial this number, and then they'll be able to enter the conference room number and the PIN number, and then they're in. The main fax box number here, this is your inbound fax number, right? So pretty straightforward. You can only have the one main fax box number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you're so inclined. The company directory, this downloads a CSV file, so you can see your staff members' names, their extension numbers, and their devices, or have people print it out and they can have it pinned up next to their desk. The soft phone directory is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone application. Basically, it downloads a file, you upload it to the VirtualPBX desktop soft phone app, and then you can see the status of everyone's soft phones in your company. Now, it only reflects the status of soft phones. So if you have people with multiple devices, right, let's say my colleague Jeff has a Yealink phone and this VirtualPBX soft phone. And the soft phone directory, I can tell when he's on the soft phone, right? But I'm not going to be able to know if he's on a call on his Yealink phone. Store discount code. Just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our online store. So get a little discount on a VoIP phone or a router. And then the account realm, all right? Each account has its own account realm. This you use for a couple things. First, you would use it to program a third-party soft phone application. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you would need. The other thing it's used for is to send out an outbound fax, right? So I have a main fax box number. If I set up my main fax box number to allow my staff members to send a fax out, right? They just create an email like they normally do, right? So emailing cousin Bob. Instead of, in the to field, instead of putting Bob's email address, they should put the +sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number, the @ symbol, and then this account realm. After that, they just need to attach a PDF or a TIFF file, and then click send, right? So the system looks at the from field, the to field, and the attachment. It doesn't look at the subject line. It does not look at the body of the email, and it's only going to send one attachment. Okay. Up here, we have company caller ID, right? Just labeled, shorthand is the caller ID, but the full thing is the company caller ID. This pull down allows you to select any of your main numbers. Now, unfortunately, sometimes my streaming software doesn't like pull downs, including this one, so I'm not going to click on that. Then you can fill out the company caller ID name. This allows you to input up to 15 characters, and that includes spaces and special characters, right? And that would be then transmitted with your outbound calls from your VoIP phones. However, then you do need to fill out your company E911 information, which wants a North American address. Then you click on Save Changes. Once you click on Save Changes, this company name information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. It takes them roughly 3 business days to update their databases. So that way, going forward, after those 3 business days, when you pick up your VoIP phone and make an outbound call, right, we're going to show this phone number, and we're going to transmit this company caller ID name. Now, some things to be aware of. Not every carrier supports the CNAME, right, the company name information. So if your call happens to route through one of those carriers, your company name information does not get to your destination. Additionally, cell phone carriers, most of them are not going to send the company name information to their subscribers, right? They control the information that shows up on the phones on their network. And some of them want their subscribers to pay extra for company name information to show up on their inbound calls. Like, so my carrier a couple years ago anyway, they wanted $10 a month for the company caller ID information to show up on my cell phone. Personally, I thought that was too high, and they get enough money as it is from me. So I'm like, no, I can live without it. Right? And that's probably a situation you'll run into with calls that you make to a cell phone carrier, or a cell phone, excuse me. Hold music, this allows you to set up company-wide hold music. Right? Now, on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has reached a user, the user has then pressed hold on their VoIP phone. On Dash, you can upload your own files. You just need to find a file on your computer. It needs to be a .mp3, a .wav, or a .ogg file. You want to record in mono, and you want to keep it under 1 megabyte. But then you would click on the little up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, you would click on Save Changes. Now, hours is actually part of main number, so let's just go right to main number. And at the top here, we got main company numbers. Right. So by default, typically when you sign up with us, you can choose a phone number. And I believe it automatically assigns it to main number, but I might be wrong on that. But if you want to add a number here, down here at the bottom, we have two options. Add from spare or by numbers. Right? So add from spare means any number you have on your account that you're not using. You just see the list here. You would click on the checkbox, click add selected, and now it's here. Right? By numbers means you're getting a whole new number. Now, if you haven't reached your allotment for your plan, it's not actually charging you for it. So we'll start with toll-free. Toll-free, you choose the toll-free prefix you want to work with. You click on search. It's going to give you a list of numbers that are currently available. Now, this list is dynamic, meaning you're actually competing with other people in real time, right? So when you want to go through and you want to find a number you like, right? Adds it to my little cart here, shows the number here. I can delete it. I can keep adding more numbers if I want to. When I'm done, I just click on by numbers here at the bottom. Now this is the system verifying that no one else took that number in that time I was making my decision. And then it's adding it to my count and making sure it's active. And there we go. Down here at the bottom, right? For local numbers, you need to know the area code. If you enter an area code, you might get this message. Right? That just means that area code is exhausted. Right? Not that it's tired, that there's just no numbers available. Right? Right. So 310 is one of the LA area codes. I think it's been exhausted forever. It seems like it anyway. And that just means that there's no numbers in that area code currently available. The recommendation is then to check for an overlay area code, meaning an area code that covers the same geographic area, or a nearby area code, right? So LA has many area codes in the area, so I could look that up. And we would go back to our search here. And so for instance, via Google, I found out that area code 424 is an overlay for area code 310. So again, find a number, click add multiple if I want to, click on by numbers, and now I have added it to my account. Now, little gear icon here, this allows you to adjust the caller ID, right? So you can make sure it has the proper outbound CNAM for your company. It also allows you to turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM, right? So that way your staff members will see the name of the person who's calling them. E911, each phone number can have its own individual E911 address. This then allows you to assign the specific, or allow you to, for your VoIP phones, to choose which phone number to use for E911 purposes, right? So that way, for your staff members, they have the E911 that's appropriate for their physical location. That way, if they happen to pick up and dial 911, emergency services get the correct address. Prepend is for your VoIP phone users. You can add additional text and that will show up in front of the caller ID. Right, so I could put in this and save changes. So I could say, let's say I'm just moving into the LA market. This is my first main number I'm having there. And I can put this prepend so that way my staff members know when a call comes in on this 42 phone number, right, reaches my staff members, the word Los Angeles shows up as part of the inbound caller ID. So then my staff members are, oh, they're calling about the new LA location. Now, if I don't want to use a number, right, I can click unassign. And we can get rid of most of these here. Now, I haven't deleted the numbers. They're still on my account, right? So they are still spare numbers. That means I can use them somewhere else, or when I get to our numbers tab, I can get to delete them and remove them from my account. Office hours strategy. Default for new accounts, 24-hour open office. Otherwise, you click on custom office hours. Under custom office hours for each day of the week, you want to put a check mark in front of the days that you're open. And then in these boxes here to the right, you select your open hours in 24 hours or military time. Right, if you leave them unchecked, you're closed. You also have the option down here at the bottom that you can check on that you're closed for lunch, and then you include your lunch hours. And then you'll click on Save Changes. Next up, you have office holidays. So first you need to decide if you're closed for holidays. If so, put a check mark there. And then over here to the right, you have Add Holiday. You have the option here for single day, date range, or advanced. Single day, like I have for New Year's Eve, you give it a name, choose the month and the date, click Save Changes. Right? Date range, like Xmas break, right? Again, give it a name, start date, end date. There's no year indicator, so we do advise just to be safe, to not include a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Advanced is like Thanksgiving, right? Give it a name, choose the month. This middle pull down, it's first through 5th as well as last, and then the day of the week, right? So third Thursday in November, Thanksgiving. And then click on Save Changes. Oh, I should point out, you can always click on the trash icon, right, to remove a holiday. So like I can get rid of that one if I wanted to, and then click on Save Changes. All right, incoming call handling. This is what the system is doing with your main numbers. I have these other subtabs here for open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? So what's the system doing for those either times of days or specific dates? And then I have these options. So calls come in and they go to the virtual receptionist. Now, here is, on the left is your main menu, right? So this is what people press on their phones to navigate through your phone system. Down here at the bottom, or towards the bottom of it, right, you have Add Route. When you click on that, it creates a new row. And the pull down here, right, whoops. You have 0 through 9, the star key, as well as the default action, right? The other pull down is where you want it to go. So we'll go up here to the top. All right, Smart PBX directory, that's the user directory or dial by name directory. Users, right, you're sending calls. A menu option go to a specific person. call queues. If you're making use of ACD queues, you can have a menu option go to a queue. Devices, this means you're sending calls to a specific phone. The caveat here is you want to make sure that phone, either someone's always there, right? Or that it has its own built-in voicemail or answering machine, right? If it doesn't, right, the person could just sit there forever trying to connect. Media, that means you're playing a greeting, right? So like this would be used for like hours of operation directions. Once that media file stops playing, then the call will end. Groups, this is ring groups, departments. Advanced call flows, this would be if you're making use of submenuing, right? So 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Voicemail boxes, this would be so they can leave a voicemail. Now, if you don't want to use a menu option anymore, right, you can click on the X to the right of it. And we can get rid of this one because I already... Well, let's just send that one there. All right. Now, greetings. This is how the system is going to respond to the customer when they first pick up, right? So text-to-speech, you type in a greeting. You have 250 characters to work with, not words. So it's not super long. It's a computerized or robotic voice, right? But and the purpose of your greeting is beyond saying thank you for calling, right? Is you're giving your customers direction, right? What should they press, right, to get to where? Now, for the text-to-speech greeting, the system, once you click update, save and save changes, the system will save the file, in this case, as our main open hours menu, and then put the letters TTS, right, for text-to-speech. It reuses that file name every time I update it, right? So let's say I come in here an hour later and I retype this greeting, update, save, and save changes. Now I'm going to have 2 files that say main open hours menu TTS, but I don't have an easy way to determine which one is which. So my recommendation is if you use the text-to-speech, after you've clicked save, go to the greetings tab, which we're getting to shortly, and change the name, right? So it's something that you can identify fairly quickly. And then usually for the text-to-speech, I usually recommend that for people who are new to PBX systems or they're a startup business, right? Or they're just not simply sure how they want things to go right off the bat. So that way they can get used to it. Plus it's free, pretty quick. Upload your own file, right? You click on choose file. You can upload a .ogg, a .wav, a .mp3, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Then update, save, and save changes. You can choose from an existing file. And you can see I have main open hours menu TTS here. This pull down will show every media file on your account. So whether it's a voicemail greeting, a main greeting, or even hold music, right? It'll be an option. So that's why you want names that you can identify quickly. You can record your main greeting over the phone. By default, the system wants you to use a VoIP phone, right? It's actually one of these first instructions here is pick up a phone registered in this account. Oops. Just that first line there. Right, that's what it means. Right, when you see registered phone, that means VoIP phone. If, let's say you ordered VoIP phones, but they haven't arrived yet, but you want to put a greeting in place with your voice so that way your customers are, comforted by hearing your voice and that, oh, this is the right business. Then what you would want to do is under settings, right? So down here, and this one specifically, allow outside recording, you'd want to turn this on. Turn that one off, right? So that means you're allowing, the system will allow someone calling in from a cell phone or a landline to enter in the PIN number that shows up above, to then record the greeting over the phone. Now, if you just signed up with us, right, and you call your main number, initially you're going to hear a message saying that no greeting has been set up for this menu, and it will prompt you to enter the PIN number. The PIN number is specific to the time of day, right? So open hours is what we're in. That means my PIN number only works during my open hours. If you already have a greeting in place, greeting A is playing, you can still enter your PIN number during your open hours, for instance. The system will recognize that and say, start walking you through how to record a greeting over the phone. There's not an option to give a file name for that file that you're recording over the phone. It just simply overwrites the existing greeting A with the new content you're creating at that time, right? So greeting A, the name stays the change, you just overwrote the content. And then we have professional recording services. When you click order, this will open up a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voice actors and actresses to choose from, different versions of English and French and Spanish. They do their own pricing, right? They bill directly to you via, usually via credit card, and then they email you the completed file. So then you would just simply upload it up here. All right. Now these first two settings are somewhat related, right? So number of retries on missed dial and then dialing timeout. Right, number of retries on missed dials, how many times I can make a boo-boo, make a mistake. Dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for a second or third button press before it assumes the person is done. So we have a number of retries of 4 with a dialing timeout of 5. So let's say caller comes in and they press 7, right? So it's not a menu option over there on my left. And we'll say for this scenario, I don't have an extension number named number 7 or numbered number 7. Right, so system hears 7. It waits for a count of 5 because of the dialing timeout. It goes, oh, you're done. No menu option 7, no extension 7. It then replays the greeting and allows that caller to make another entry. Right, so that's their first. So now they've had one attempt, and now they're on their first retry, right? So they had a total of 4 retries total, so 5 total attempts, each one waiting 5 seconds after that initial button press, right? Or after each button press. Finally, after that last attempt, it's going to say, we don't recognize your entry, and then transferring the call to my default action, in this case, the PBX directory. If I remove the default action, right, then the system will still tell them that we did not recognize their entry, but then end the call. We'll say goodbye. All right. Allow dialing extensions. By default, this is on. That means when the caller gets to the virtual receptionist, your callers can enter an extension number and the system will accept it, right? And as long as it's a valid extension, we'll transfer the call. If I turn this off, that means they can't enter extension numbers. Right? The system will say unrecognized entry, meaning they can only press one of the menu options. And then the suppressive dialing of invalid entry, right? So by default, the system is going to play a message saying, hey, we did not recognize your entry, and say goodbye. I don't want that message to play. I just turn this on. Right. Any changes, you make sure your main menu, your greetings, or the settings, you want to click save here. Right, takes you back to incoming call handling. You want to click save changes here. And that way all your changes got saved. All right, the second option is a live operator answer option, meaning it's ideally set up so you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members a chance to answer the call. If they're not able to pick up, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. Right, so this is a pull down. You can choose users. You can select queues, right? Multiple potentially multiple staff members. They send devices. Again, if someone's there, great. If not, then it goes to the virtual receptionist after about 20 seconds. Media file, I don't recommend this here just because it can be confusing, right? Because you're going to have this media, whatever media file you select here, and then when the customer gets to the virtual receptionist, they have another greeting file play right away, and that can throw people off or irritate them, depending on the person. Groups, right? So you can send it to, say, my front desk group, which is my receptionist team, right? So offering it to multiple people. Advanced call flows, meaning I can send it to a different auto attendant. Now, we're still under open hours, so this virtual receptionist is the one we were just looking at and just saved. Now, if I change it to after hours, all right, click on the virtual receptionist, and now I have different menu options, right? Likely I have a different greeting, most likely, and I can have different settings. Third option here, right? You're basically offering calls to a user. You can send it to a group. You can send it to a call queue specific to phone, right? Device. You can have a media file play here. In this case, it's not going to be quite so bad, right? So just a brief greeting message typically, or you have skipped to voicemail, right? And then the second pull down here is you're sending it to a voicemail box of your choice. And then the last option is if your account has multiple auto attendants and those auto attendants are made available in the main menu, this option will be here. But basically it means you're sending it to a secondary attendant. Not very common. Typically we see something like this for after hours or even this. Right, holidays, same idea, right? You have the same basic options. They would have its own virtual receptionist if you use it, or you can go skip to voicemail. Main conference number, right? You can add from spare, by new. You can have your own custom text-to-speech greeting. Again, 250 characters. Even without this, right? So if I cancel out of this and I don't have it enabled, when someone dials this 408 number, they still hear a message say, welcome to the conference, and then the system prompts them to enter the PIN number and the room number, and then the PIN number, excuse me. Main fax box, you have the one main fax box number, right? If I unassign it, I'd have the option here for buy new or add from spare. But then you can click edit fax box. So first up, inbound notification email, right? Whatever email address, or in this case, email addresses you have here, anytime a fax comes through, right, they get an email saying, hey, fax came through, here's the date, the time, and the phone numbers involved, attachment in a PDF. Now, if for some reason someone dials the 775 number I have for my fax box number and they hang up, right? Let's say they called from your cell phone. And they, oh, here fax tones, whoops, wrong number, hang up. These people are still going to get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, the email permissions, this is for outbound faxing. This is designed to put your company domain name here, so that way everyone at your company can then fax out from the system, even if they're not a user on your Dash account. All right, auto attendance. This is a plan-specific feature. So some plans have it, other plans don't. This allows you to create secondary attendants. And for a couple of reasons you would do this. One would be that submenuing option I mentioned before, right? So you have like people come to your main number and you say for English, press 1, for Spanish, press 2, right? Chinese, press 3, etc. So 1, 2, and 3, you would come here and create those menu options, right? Give them an auto attendant. So we would click on add attendant here. We would give it a name and an extension number, right? The extension number is for internal use, right? Your customers aren't going to know. Click on create attendant. Once that attendant is created, you can click on its name and you have this option here, available in main menu, or actually unavailable in main menu is the default, meaning it's standalone, or available in main menu, meaning it's a submenu option. Now, the reason you would leave it as unavailable would be is if you have a second business, right? So you say you have multiple businesses, right? So they have their own main number, their own greetings, but you have the same staff members answering calls for each of these businesses. Well, then that's how you would do it here. You just leave it unavailable in main menu. Auto attendants can have their own phone numbers, right? Either add for spare or buy new. If you click on the little wrench icon here under settings, once it loads, you have open hours, after hours, and holidays, right? These times or dates, in the case of holidays, match what we just set up under main number, right? So if you have secondary businesses, they have to have the same hours of operation as the primary business on the account. But beyond that, right, they only have the option to go to the virtual receptionist. So you need to give them menu options of greeting and settings. Devices. This shows your devices on the account, right? Red means it's unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. Black means it's off, right? I can turn it back on if I want to, right? Green means it's registered, meaning we can send a call to it. So green is good, right, in this case. So that way you know it's working. Up here at the top, you can add devices. You have these options. First up is SIP phone, right? This is that physical VoIP phone, sits on someone's desk. You have these manufacturers to choose from. Some have a lot of phone models to choose from. So if you're shopping, you can refer to this list, right? Some don't have as many. But find the make and model of the phone you want to work with. Give it a name, right? Like Angela's phone, right? Or break room phone, right? Then you need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique to each phone. Usually a sticker on the back of the phone. If the phone's plugged in, it's usually under its like basic settings or status. Right? You would enter that information here. You can click on create, then you would click on create device. After that, you just need to assign it to a user, which you would do under the users tab. And as far as our dashboard here is concerned, you're done, but you're not done with the VoIP phone. Right? You need to access that phone's web user interface and enter in a URL, right? That tells the phone, hey, go here, get your config file. It's going to reboot a couple times, and then it will show up as a green device here. For the specifics of that URL, because the syntax is slightly different between each manufacturer, you want to go to our support pages, and you're looking for the document called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's going to have screenshots for each of these manufacturers, the proper syntax, usually a couple settings to verify. Cell phone and landline are the same, right? You just give it a name, right? Mary's phone. And then under number here, you put +1, area code, and phone number. Then you will click on create device. So over here, I'm going to click on the advanced options. And when I do it like this, this is the default settings. Now, what that means is when a call gets offered to this device, right, the device is going to ring. When you initially pick up, you're going to hear a message from the system saying, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Now, if, for instance, you want callers to actually go to your cell phone voicemail, or, for instance, you want to send calls to an automated answering service, then you would want to click this box here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. All right, so in the case of an automated answering service, especially, right, that means we send the call there, we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. right? No need to press 1. That message doesn't even play, in fact, right? If it's your cell phone, right? If your cell phone voicemail picks up, again, it's a pickup tone. We connect a call. That caller ends up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. The other thing that comes up is the second one here, keep original caller ID. So say customer Mary is calling you on your system, right? It's getting out to your cell phone. You see customer Mary's phone number. You don't recognize it, and you've had, say 5 political calls as well as a couple extending my auto warranty calls. You're like, I'm just not dealing with my phone today, right? So that means customer Mary would go to voicemail. Maybe you can reconnect to her, maybe not. If you uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number show up on your cell phone, you would see your main phone number. And what I mean by that, we go back to our dashboard page here. Under caller ID, this number that I selected here, that's what would show up. Right? So hopefully I would recognize my main company phone number, and I could then choose to answer the call because it might be worth it at that point. Soft phone on the devices page, you'll always get this warning message here every time you add a soft phone. But when you add a soft phone on the devices page, it's only going to allow you to add a third-party soft phone, meaning you're using someone else's application, right? So Zoiper or Xlite. But you'd give a name, you would copy and paste the SIP username, click on the SIP password box so you can copy and paste that, and then the account realm. Those are the 3 pieces of information you would need to provision or program that soft phone application. All right, you would click on create device, then assign it to a user, and then provision that phone. In terms of settings, so for physical VoIP phones, for example, if we go to advanced audio, you want to make sure G711A and G711U are set up for physical phones, or if you're using soft phones to program a physical phone as well. Right? Emergency information, right? You can select that phone number for E911 purposes, as well as for the external caller ID. Oh, sorry, I was on external, but you could also do the same for emergency purposes. For the VirtualPBX soft phone, for the codec, you'd want to make sure you're using Opus, OPUS. All right, Greetings Manager shows all the greetings on your account. Again, voicemail, main, or hold music, they're all here. You can add a file up here, right? Just give it a name, find the file, click on Create Greeting, it's going to upload it. You have the name here, right? Source, upload, right? You uploaded the file. TTS means text to speech. Recording means you recorded it over the phone. You have a little download icon here, meaning you can download the file so that way you can listen to it. Right, see if it's still relevant. And then the little wrench icon here is where you can either change the name or even remove it, so because you no longer need it. Groups, short for ring groups or hunt groups. Up here at the top, you click Add Group. You give it a name and an extension number. If you click on Find One, it'll help you find an available extension number. Not sure why I have 2 with extension 4. That's usually not good. Anyway, after that, you click and drag your staff members that you want to be in the group. You click on Create Group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. All right, you can always change the name at any time. Whoops. Right, and then we have the group call attempts. This is how many times the system will offer a call. You have little arrows here to the right where you can increase or decrease that, and then click on Save Changes. Next up is the members box. It shows your staff members, right, and the ring order that they're in. Oops, looks like we had a person get deleted. Up here on the top are timestamps. This last one you can edit. The default is 120 seconds. But you can change it to whatever you want. In this case, I would want to redistribute to equalize the times offered. Now these are sliders, right? So I can adjust the ring times. So I'm going to set up blast ringing here. Oops. Or ring all, as it's sometimes referred to. Right, so now calls are offered to everyone for the full amount. If I want to change the order, right, let's say I go back to distribute, right? Let's say David has a project. I can click and drag and move his name down. Now he's still at 0, so he's still first. But let's say I want to do some further adjustments. Now I click distribute again. Now Gio's first. Right, and every call is going to be offered in this same order. Right, so if Gio is on a call already, right, he's still offered the next call that comes in. Right, until it's ready after the 24 seconds or whatever it is, then it would move on to Michael. Now, your staff members in groups can answer calls on cell phones, landlines, or VoIP phones, right? Groups, it doesn't care. If they have multiple devices, it's going to ring all of their devices at the same time. Right, so like say Gio's on a call and that second call comes in, he may hear a call waiting beep, right? If his phone he's using supports call waiting, he'd probably want to turn that off, potentially. That's up to him. But then once it rolls over, right, then Michael's phone would start ringing and then he can answer. You can click on Add User to add additional users to a group, right? Click Remove to remove them from a group. And then any changes you make, click on Save Changes. Groups can have extensions. They can have multiple if you want them to. They can have their own phone numbers if you want them to. Now, this phone number is not a main number or auto attendant phone number, so that means it does not have hours of operation, right? Meaning this phone number is available 24/7. Let me check something here. All right, groups have features. So by default, when a call is offered to your group members, right, your inbound caller is going to hear that ringing sound, right? Now that ringing sound is actually being piped back to them from your users, right? So call comes into the group, say it's being offered to Gio. When Gio's phone starts ringing, that ring sound gets transmitted back to your inbound caller, your customer. Now, if you don't want them to hear that ringing sound, you can then enable the ringback setting and then either upload a .wav, .mp3, .ogg file or choose one of your existing files. Click on Save Changes. Now, if for some reasons Gio's phone doesn't produce that ringing sound, let's say there's a busy tone instead, there's no ringing sound to be transmitted back to the inbound caller, so they hear silence until it gets offered to the next device or user. Doesn't come up very often. Next action. This is what you tell the system to do if none of your staff members were able to answer the call. Right, so you click Enable, and then you choose where you're sending it. Right, you can send them back to your virtual receptionist, one of your secondary attendants. You can send it to a call queue, a specific phone. You can send it to another ring group, one of your specific users, or a specific voicemail box. And then Save Changes. Allow call forward. If this enabled, then you're allowing your users to make use of call forwarding for their device. i.e. they're not going to be at their normal phone. Caller ID prepend is for your VoIP phone users, where you can add text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their VoIP phones. All right, numbers takes you to our numbers in use. This shows you where your numbers are being used. Right, you can't unassign them here. You can't click on the little gear icons. So you can update caller ID, E911, and prepend, etc. Right, but this will tell you where to go if you need to like unassign a number or what a number's doing. Over here, we have our spare numbers tab. So these are numbers you're not using. Now, if I want to get rid of a number, right, I can click on the little checkbox in front of it, and now I have the option to delete up here. Right, so now I've removed 2 numbers from my account, so I saved a little money. All right, by numbers, I have local and toll-free, and that just adds them as my spare numbers, or as more spare numbers. Right, so I can assign them later. For instance, you know you're going to be opening a new location, and so you want a local number in that area, but you don't have any place to assign it yet. This is why you would buy a number ahead of time. Port a number, right? Starts the porting process. You give it a name. You choose US local or toll free. And then you need to upload a copy of your bill in PDF. It's going to ask you for, make sure that's within 30 days. Then it asks for the address associated with it, the numbers that you're going to port. It will allow you to download a blank letter of agency, or LOA, as well as upload a completed and signed LOA. You can choose the date you want the port to complete, and who's going to be notified of it. And then there's 4 checkboxes you need to check. Then you submit. After you click submit and it uploads completely, you'll get an automated email saying you submitted a port request. By the next business day, you should get a second email from our porting team, meaning a person's actually looked at the documents and made sure things looked proper. Like the main thing that comes up is sometimes when the attachments didn't come through properly for whatever reasons, or on the LOA, instead of assigning it, they just type their name twice, right? That gets rejected every time, usually by an automated system on the other end. So we try to say, hey, we actually need a signature. Digital signature is fine, or you could print it out, sign it, and then scan it back in, just so that way we avoid a delay in terms of the rejection. In terms of rejection notices, they're not always very specific, right? So like they'll say address mismatch. We don't know if the street number was wrong or the whole street address was incorrect, right? They'll just say address mismatch. So typically, toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days if everything is correct. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm trying to think of anything else that's relevant. All right, let's go on to users. Great person, standard user, right? Person with the blue suit, system admin, right? They can do all the things we're doing here. Up here at the top, you click on add user. All right, you fill out the form. So first and last name, pretty easy. Just need to put some kind of information here. The email address used for login has to be unique for each user, right? So no reusing emails. Then you create a password for them, and then you enter an extension number. The system will recommend an extension number to you, typically following, like this system started with extension 1000, so it's saying the next available is 1020. You don't have to follow that. Right? You can enter in your own extension number. Then by default, the system will create a voicemail box for the user at the same time. this voicemail box is intrinsically tied to the user, meaning if I created a user in the voicemail box, and then I added a VoIP phone to that user right away, they could pick up their VoIP phone, dial *98, that logs them directly into their voicemail box. The system will prompt them to create a PIN number for their voicemail box, as well as then walk them through creating their voicemail box greeting. This is the option to include the user directory. You can change that later. Then we have send emails to an alternate address. Now, by default, the system will use the email address used for login to send emails to that user, right? So for things like password resets or voicemail notifications. If for some reason you don't want those emails to go to the email address they used to log in, then you would click here to add to an alternate address and then put in a different email address here. And then send credentials to the user. I think that's pretty important, but that's so that way they can email with their login information. If you need to create multiple users, create user and add another. If you're just creating one, click on create user, and then they'll show up here. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. You can change their name. If you change their credentials, you can change their email address and their password. You can also click right there to send them the password reset email. Now, you can't do this to your own user, right? Your own user, you have to click on your name up here at the top. You can change the voicemail box PIN number. Here's your option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to be in the user directory. Over here on the right, this little person icon, this pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin to a user. This is their time zone. Sorry. Right, so that way their voicemail timestamps are correct. The little flag here, that's their display language for the web pages here, right? So if someone's more comfortable in a different language, you can select English, French, German, or Russian. The ringing timeout, measured in seconds, default is 20. This is how much time we offer calls to the devices on the user. For a landline or VoIP phone, 20 seconds is plenty. If the person's only using a cell phone, then you would want to increase this to 30 or 40 seconds. Users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Right, just add an extension. If you need to change an extension number for a user, a group, or even an auto attendant, I recommend assigning the new extension number first, right? Click on Save Changes, click on it again, and then unassign the original extension and then save changes. Users can have their own phone numbers. Right? You can add from spare or buy new. Just like for groups, right? This phone number is available 24/7. Right? Does not have hours of operation. Right? You can add devices to a user directory, right? Like this SIP phone, etc. Now, for the soft phone, right? Starts off the same, right? Gives you a little warning message. And the bigger box will come up here. But there's a little change. Down here towards the bottom, it says use third-party application. You can click on that. And now it flips it to say use VirtualPBX application. You still need to give it a name, right? Then you will click on create device. And then you click on save changes. Once you click on save changes, Aaron, in this case, is going to get an email with his soft phone login information as well as download links. Right? If I don't click that little switch, it just leaves it as a third-party application, meaning you're intending to use someone else's soft phone app. All right, group features, caller ID number, only for users that have their own phone number. And what you're doing is changing their outbound caller ID to be their own phone number, right? So the user, you've already assigned a number to them. You turn this on, and now whenever Aaron makes an outbound call, his phone number is this 703 number. Right? And then I would click on Save Changes. Virtual text is a new feature. We'll click on that. Right, you first enable it, and then you have a phone number. You have to choose a phone number. It's going to show a phone number for the user or any of your main numbers or auto attendant phone numbers. And then you would click on Save Changes. Now, since Aaron is a standard user in Dash in the virtual text app, he's also a standard user there. Right? If I enabled it on, say, Geo here, right, because he's a system admin, then under virtual text, he'd be a system admin there. Right? The major advantage of virtual text is that it allows you to share numbers among your staff members, so that way multiple people can interact via text with your customers. I would definitely check out the virtual text page on our website. Voicemail. Right, this is basically default settings. Now, transcription is actually a plan-specific feature, right? Available on some plans and not others. And that's what the system does. It listens to your voicemails and tries to type out what was said in the voicemail notification email. Now, if the person isn't speaking clearly or not speaking into their mic, or there's a lot of background noise, then it's probably not going to be very accurate, right? It does the best that it can. But voicemail to email, typically on by default, which just means we attach an MP3 file to the email notification. Now, voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages after that. So after that, it's full, so it can't accept any more. You do have the option for this feature here is to delete after that message is sent. If you do that, that means that your users can only check their voicemail messages via email, right? If you leave this unchecked, they can check over their phone or either also through the user portal. Follow Me is for a feature is a user feature for someone who's got multiple devices. So let's go down here. Right. So it starts off actually, look at when you first enable it like this. Right. Both things are disabled. Saying basically the system wants to know which devices you want to use. Right. So then you would uncheck them, and then it actually starts them. Oops. Like this. Right, you have a timestamps up here, which is defaults 220, but I can change it to 60. Right, I can click distribute. Right, and just like it groups, I can change the order. Right, these are sliders, so I can adjust the length as well. And then click on Save Changes. Users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. You then have the option to use a spare number or buy a new one or an extension. If you select extension, this person can only ever receive faxes. They're not going to be able to successfully fax out. Right? If you choose a phone number, they can send and receive. And that's just basically because the system checks the user to see if they have a fax box. If they have a fax box with just an extension, it tries to use that extension as the outbound caller ID. Not enough extensions, so then it will fail. Conference Bridge, once you enable it, you just need to create a PIN number. Click on Save Changes. Your users can adjust the PIN numbers themselves under the user portal. Call forwarding, off, on, or failover mode. Your users can turn this off or on themselves. They can do that in the user portal or directly from their VoIP phone. Right? Failover mode is something as an admin would have to set up, but then you select mobile or desk phone and then put +1 area code and phone number, and then click on Save Changes. So what failover mode means is the VoIP phone on the user deregistered, right? Turned red on the dashboard. Call happens to come into the user at that time, the system will automatically forward it to this phone number you set up. Customize call recording. When you first enable it, it looks like this because you need to tell the system what kind of calls you're going to record. Right? Inbound internal means a coworker call. Right? Someone else on the dash system called me. Inbound external, customer Mary called me. Right? Outbound internal means I called a coworker. Right? Someone else on the dash system. Outbound external, I called customer Mary. And then save changes. Now, every account includes at least some amount of data storage as part of your monthly plan price. After that, you would get an overage. You'd want to check with our account services team for the specifics of that. Music on hold. You can have your users have their own individualized hold music if you want them to. You would just upload a .wav, .mp3, .ogg file recorded in mono, or select a file you already uploaded, and then click on Save Changes. So for instance, you can have your sales team have one set of hold music versus your tech support team. Right? Do not disturb means the person's not going to get calls. Calls will go to voicemail. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. And basically it's for a shared office environment or like hybrid scheduling. So I would set this up, give it a hot desk ID, up to you if you want to include a PIN number. But then when I come into the office, I sit down at desk number 2, I pick up the phone, the VoIP phone, pick up the VoIP phone at that desk, hit *11. That turns on hot desking. And it will ask me for the hot desk ID, I enter that, and then it will tell me calls will be sent to this phone. Right, so the rest of my workday, I'm sitting at desk number 2, I'm getting calls at that phone. End of my day, I pick up the handset, I dial *12 to turn off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, someone's already sitting at desk number 2, I scoot over to desk number 5 instead, do the same thing. Voicemail boxes shows your voicemail boxes on the account. The ones that have a name under the user field are the voicemail boxes you created for the user at the time of their creation. Right? If they don't have a name, they were either the main voicemail box, which the system creates, or a voicemail box you created manually. Right? We do that up here at the top. Give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number, and then create voicemail box. Now you can click on the little wrench icon here and always review the voicemail box number and the PIN number, right? So that way you could call in and record a voicemail greeting for it, for example. Under Advanced, go to Greeting Media. You can upload a file, right? Or choose an existing file on the account. Now, the media file is your typical greeting file, right? Your normal day-to-day. The temporary, that's for like the vacation or out of office message. So if you have something selected in temporary, it will play, right? It will supersede the media file until you set temporary back to none. Recipients, your user voicemail boxes have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. But you can add more, right? Click Add New Recipient, put in a new email address here. If you need to keep adding more, keep clicking Add, otherwise click on Save Changes. Obviously, for a voicemail box you create on the voicemail boxes page, you'd want to put in at least one recipient. All right, so once you have a media file in place and a recipient, then you can say this voicemail box is already set up, right? Put a check mark there. And here you would confirm that you have attached messages to email, as well as if you want delete after notification. Another one option here is announce only mode. That's if you want a voicemail box that's only there to give out information and will not accept voicemail messages, right? So like hours of operations or directions, right? You wouldn't want your customers to leave a voicemail in that box because you're like, no, I'm just giving you out some additional information here, and no one's checking this voicemail box. Advanced routing, this is where direct inward system access is, or DISA. And what that is it allows you to call into your system, with a cell phone or landline. You can log in over the phone, then you'll get dial tone again, and then you can make an outbound call. When you make that outbound call, it's not your cell phone number that shows up as the outbound caller ID, but your main number. Now, this feature is not enabled on new accounts that sign up. This is something you have to ask for from our account services team. Once it's here, you would click Enable. And then by default, the system assigns a PIN number for you. Now, if you just leave it like this, then you would need to make DISA a menu option under your virtual receptionist or one of your auto attendants. That is not recommended because eventually someone will find that by accident. And if that someone happens to be a bad actor type, they're going to try to find out that PIN number, right? And once they do, they'll make outbound calls on your account. So you click Edit Settings. I recommend add an extension number and do one that is not part of your normal sequence, right? So most of my extensions are 1000 based. So I would choose a fairly random extension number that's not related to any other extension number, and then click on Save Changes, right? So then you could give this information to your staff members, right? They can call into the main number from a cell phone or landline. When they get to the virtual receptionist, they enter in this extension number. The system will prompt them for the PIN number. Then they can make an outbound call, right? Enter area code and phone number. And when they do so, it's not their cell phone number, but this 323 phone number shows up as the outbound caller ID. Let me go ahead and disable that. All right, now one way to keep track or potentially see if an outbound call was made on your account without your approval or not being legitimate is via these call logs. So under today, I see these calls came in, right? Because they have the green arrow to the right. And it looks like they didn't actually speak to anybody. I can go to this week. And so here I can see Gio made an outbound call, but he used his web phone. So I don't have to worry about that being a DISA call, for example. Let's go to this month. Wow. That's a long call. But here you see an inbound call, and I can see what devices it was offered to. There's a little fire hydrant here. This will create an email that goes to support@virtualpbx.com. It'll have the technical details of the call. I would advise that you type in that body of the message, what happened, right? Give us some context. Help us identify what was going on or better troubleshoot. Now, any of these days of times, right, you can download, it downloads a CSV file. So if you're good with spreadsheets, you can get, collate the data. You can do custom, so you can do a custom date range, like going back by month, right? And then download the files. The system will allow you to go back up to 1 year, right? 12 months. If you needed to go further than that, we'd actually have to get an escalation up to our engineers. They can go back up to 18 months, but after that, the data is lost. So if you need your call data for some sort of compliance reasons, then I would advise you to do this at least every month, right? Just get the whole month, download the CSV file, save it, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Feature codes, I've talked about a couple of these, but these are ways your staff members can make use of Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. Now, this information is on the website under the support pages, right? There's a feature codes page. There's also a phone commands cheat sheet, which gives a brief explanation of how to use them. On here, right, you got the little help icon, which has a little bit, a brief blurb for each one as well. All right, so that's the dashboard. Next up, we got blacklists. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you want to block from reaching your account, right? Meaning they're going to get a busy tone. So you would click Edit Blacklists. Now, for most of you, you would click on Add. I'm just going to click on an existing list. You give it a name, and then you have to decide, are you blocking anonymous calls or not, right? That means if we're not getting valid inbound caller ID, then we block the call, right? If you turn this on. Otherwise, you click Add Number, +1 area code and phone number. No parentheses, no dashes, no spaces, right? Just +1 area code and number, and keep clicking Add to keep adding more phone numbers. Once you're done, you click on Save. You go back to Settings. You make sure your settings or your lists are over here to the right under Selected, and then click Update, and now they're active. Right, so any numbers I have on these two lists, they get busy tone whenever they try to dial one of my numbers. Call recording. So for most of your accounts, it will default to opening a new tab and taking you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Then you just use your Dash login to log in, where you would look at your recordings, download them, listen to them, delete them, etc. If you have AWS enabled on your account, this is what it looks like until you configure your call recording for AWS, in which case you would see your recordings from the AWS site here. Monitor. This is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status of your staff members, right? Doesn't matter what phone they're using, right? If they're on a call, it'll show up here and who's calling them. I can go by devices. I can see who's available or who's busy, right? Up here, right? Those are my active inbound calls. So I'd have little boxes for each one and who they're speaking to. For parked calls, they would be a list here, and they would also show the parking spot number. Reports actually takes you to a new tab, reports.virtualpbx.com. This is a plan-specific feature. This is actually the advanced reporting feature, which allows you to create your own reports, right? So it's more, or it can be more useful than the call logs. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on this streaming software. So under our YouTube channel, if you go under the videos, there is an advanced reporting demo video there that will show you what you can do, some of what you can do with the reports. And if that's something you're interested in, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Voicemails is built in. It's a included feature. This allows you to, as an admin, to get to any voicemail box on the account. So you can see their messages, right? So if their voicemail box is full, you can go through to delete them, right? Click on the box and you can delete or mark them for deletion. Also, as an admin, you could send it to a different voicemail box, right? But you'll see the date, the time, the phone numbers involved, the duration. You can play it, you can download it. Integration AWS needs to be enabled on your account. But that would be for like the call recording storage. ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution. This is actually upgraded to existing plans. It is possible that you may have to upgrade your plan and then be able to add ACD queues at all. Right. Now, there are two kinds of queues that we offer. What you're seeing here are the standard ACD queues. We also have ACD queues Pro. Have slightly more features. Accounts can only have one or the other, right? So on this account, I can only show you the standard queues. For the Pro queues, we do have a demo on our YouTube channel. Again, other videos. You're looking for ACD Queues Pro demo. All right, standard queues. You would click on Add New Queue. Let's just click on the gear icon here. You give it a name. You can give it a phone number or an extension number, right? One or the other, not both. Then you have the queue routing strategy. Round robin means it equalizes out over time. For standard queues, there's also ring all. It rings everybody. Most idle, right? Whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Then there's least calls, meaning the least amount of connected calls, right? And then least offers, the combination of missed and connected calls. The Pro queues have all of those, except it does not have ring all. Hold treatment, you can upload your own file, right? MP3, OGG.wav, recorded in mono. The Pro queues, you can have multiple music files play, right? Like in sequence. You can also have things like announce their position in line or their expected wait time. Excuse me. Queue timeout measured in seconds, right? It's how much time that people can wait, your inbound callers can wait on hold. The queue call limit is how many people can wait on hold. If I set this at 0, that means there's no limit. Also, this, right now it's at 4. This is on top of calls that are already speaking to my staff members. Right. Timeout immediately if empty. If this is enabled, that means if I have no staff members logged in and a caller comes into this queue, the system will treat that new caller as if they already hit the 3,600 seconds. The escalation call flow after timeout. So after that 3,600 seconds expires, what do you want to do with the call? This is a pull down. You just select where you want it to go, right? You know, user, voicemail box, another queue, another group, back to the auto attendant, etc. The zero out call flow, if you have something selected other than none here, what you're doing is you're enabling the inbound caller to press 0. And then if so, right, the pull down is where do you want them to go? Right, if you select that on none, then they have to wait on hold or hang up or until they answer. All right, agent behavior, agent recovery time measured in seconds, right? How much time after they're done with a call before the system offers them a second queue call. Force away on reject or missed. That means if your staff member misses a queue call, then the system will automatically mark them away. I.e., there won't be offered more calls until the agent themselves says, okay, I'm ready. Agent connect timeout measured in seconds. Default is 20. So for ACD queues, your staff members can only answer calls with a VoIP phone, right? So a SIP phone, soft phone, or even the web phone. And then you would click on create, or in this case, save changes. Once you get queues created, you would click on the little members icon here. This is a list of people that are available to be in my queues, right? Meaning I've already made them as part of my queue group of people. I click on manage members here. Now I have 2 lists, right? So the list on the right, again, that same list that we just saw, these are people who are already can be in my queues. The list on my left here is for other staff members, but they're not assigned to queues yet. Like if I click on Josh here, and then I click on add as a member, right? Then he'll be moved over to the right. I go back to members. You click on a queue, right? So you have 3 people logged in. If I click on agents, I can assign more people to this queue if I want them, right? Just click and drag, for instance. And then managers link, you have to have staff members already assigned, right? So they first have to be an agent, and then now I can move Gene over here to the right, right? All right, let's log out here for a second. All right, so for your staff members, right, typically what they want to do, log into Dash, right, come here to ACD queues. They'll be taken here. Up here at the top right, click on Begin Session. That logs them into the queue, right? See, my name popped back up here. Then they should click on the little phone icon here and select their default device, hopefully a green one. Then click on the handset again, click where it says away, and then mark as ready. And now I'm ready to take calls, right? Green means I'm ready, red means I'm away. All right, if I'm light blue, that means a call is being offered to me. Dark blue means I'm on a inbound queue call, right? I've connected to somebody. Yellow means I'm on an external call. So someone either called my extension number directly or I made an outbound call. And then there's a golden color for when you're on recovery time. Now, the pro queues also have a performance icon in between here. So you, as an admin, you can compare staff members to each other, right? Agents to see how they're doing in terms of call volume and handled calls, etc. The pro queues also have the ability for managers to eavesdrop on a call, as well as whisper to their agent or even barge in to the call. Dynamic caller ID, plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change the outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So we'll click on this first one here. So this one, you give it a name, then you choose a phone number on your account, right? And that's the phone number that's going to be displayed as the outbound caller ID. And then you choose how you're implementing. In this case, I'm saying whenever my staff members dial the 408 area code, to automatically change their phone number to match this 408 phone number. Right, so it looks like a local number to whoever they're calling. Now, this one here is I created a feature code. So what this does, it means that my staff members have to dial *550 and then area code and phone number they're reaching to. The system will see that and then change their outbound caller ID to be this 323 phone number. Now, in terms of creating the feature code, I recommend star and then 3 digits, right? So that way you're not, you shouldn't run the risk of interfering with the system feature codes. Faxes, this takes you to the fax manager. It's included. You can get to any fax box on the account, right? So you can see inbound faxes, date, the time, the phone number. You can download the file, etc. Outbound faxes, again, you can get to any fax box on the account. You can see the date, the time, phone numbers, and pages. Let's see. So for failures, if you see failures under the outbound fax log here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax number. Right, so we process the request, we dial the other fax number, and then there was a problem. If you click on this last icon here at the right, it might give you some additional details. Right, unfortunately, it just said success was false. Right, user busy, and that means, right, the line was busy. Right, could have been a wrong number, could just be a busy fax machine. The email to fax logs tab up here, right, this is a system had a problem processing the request, right? We didn't even try the fax number. Now, that could be because the format of the to field was wrong, right? No plus sign, right? Could be because you can see the email address here. So there might be an invalid email address being used. You can click on the little eyeball icon here. And you see no valid attachment. Means maybe the person forgot to include the attachment, or they included an attachment that wasn't a PDF or TIFF file. All right, number manager, this takes you back to spare numbers page. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. You'd actually want to talk to our salespeople about this, but this allows you to link Dash to other software, like Zapier, for example. Right, so basically we're passing on information to another service. Now, we do have a webinar that was posted. It's on our YouTube channel. It's an introduction to Zapier, which will talk about webhooks because that's typically what we use. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see samples of code that we have used in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Right, each user has their own individual user portal. So as an admin, I can't get to someone else's user portal, but then you can get to everything. So you'll see. Right, so voicemails will only show up if the user's voicemail box does not have delete after notification enabled. All right, as long as that's disabled, then voicemails will show up here. They have the date, the time. They can listen to it. They can download it. And you can then mark it as new, listen, or for deletion. Call history, you can see your call history. You can adjust the dates so you can go further back in time. The fax page only works if you have your own fax box, but it would show your fax history. The contact list shows everything on your account, right? So your other users, your groups, your other auto tenants, etc. This is not something your users can adjust or edit on their own. Right? This is only what the system admins have added to the account. All right, conference tab over to the far right, and it's a little scrunched, but this is where your users would adjust their moderator pin as well as their participant pin number. They can have people enter a conference muted or deafened, as well as play entry and exit tones. Once they're in a conference, the little plus sign, they can invite other Dash users to their conference. You can lock a conference, right? So no one else can join. You can mute everybody, you can unmute everybody, or you can end the conference call. Also, while you're in a conference, right, each participant has their own little box. So you can mute a specific person or unmute them or kick them out. Settings and devices tab, this is where your users would enable call forwarding themselves. Right, just click on the box, put +1 area code and phone number, click on save changes, right, or just uncheck it and then click on save changes. So then it's going to their normal phone and they can see their status or the status of their VoIP phones. And that is everything. So let me go ahead, and I don't see any questions. So I'll go ahead and end the stream. Again, we'll be here basically every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, except for June 28th. But beyond that, we will be here. I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.